Good evening. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. We want to note that this meeting is being broadcast on NUSD's YouTube channel at the direction of the board. The broadcast may capture images and sounds of those in the meeting. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Lametta will report out on the board's closed session.
The board met in closed session on the following items: personnel matters, public employee discipline dismissal release, gave direction. Non-re-election decision on probationary certified employee. On a motion by Trustee Butler and second by Trustee Millerick.
We will now hold a roll call vote. Trustee Butler?
Aye.
Trustee Gasson?
Aye.
Trustee Jacobson, aye. Trustee Lametta?
Aye.
Trustee Mack, absent. Trustee Millerick?
Aye.
Trustee
Aye.
Pickus?
Aye.
Thank you.
The board voted 6-0 with one absent. In closed session to non-re-elect probationary certified employee number 5583, effective at the end of the 2023-2024 school year, pursuant to Education Code Section 44929.21. The superintendent or designee shall notify the employee in writing of these actions. Negotiations, collective bargaining. Conference with labor negotiators, Francesca Whitcomb, Executive Director of Human Resources, and Employees Organization, California State Employee Association, CSEA, gave direction. Conference with labor negotiators, Francesca Whitcomb, Executive Director of Human Resources, and Employee Organization, Novato Federation of Teachers, NFT, information only.
Thank you. We'll now ask for approval of the agenda. Trustee Lametta? Votes to first to approve the agenda and second by Trustee Millerick. Thank you. All in favor? 6 plus our 2 student trustees. And we are now going to look at our consent agenda. Item N has been pulled by staff. Are there any items that anyone would like to pull in addition?
I would like to pull item 14E, and we can discuss it immediately. It's just a brief comment.
Okay, let's discuss.
You want to do it now, or do you want to do it after the?
Let's vote on everything but N and E, and then we can discuss E.
Okay.
Anything else that anyone would like to remove? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda minus N and E?
So moved.
Thank you, Trustee Millerick. And seconded by Trustee Lametta. All in favor? 6 plus our student trustees, none opposed. Okay, and now item E.
Thank you very much. Item E is identified as approval of E-rate purchases for 2024. This is an item to upgrade the equipment at the data center for the district office. Our director of IT is here with us, I believe. There she is. Do you want to, I'll ask her to make some comments after I make mine. Basically, the district in 2015 put together a master plan for how we were going to structure the IT operations for this district. And against that 2015 plan, almost 10 years ago now, we've had three particular purchases that are coming forward. One was in May of 2023, which upgraded the servers. They had reached end of life, and this board approved it with some questions, but we approved it. This coming forward now, which is half of the E-rate money available, which upgrades the switches at that same facility. And then the third piece, and the IT director can clarify us on this, on the upgrade of the master switch at each campus, which will complete the upgrade of the wide area network. All of this addresses the master plan that was written, and it refreshes it to the end of 10 years. which is consistent with the plan that was set. In addition, our IT directors looked at security issues and reliability and continuity issues, and we're going to be getting, I believe, a 5-year plan out of her department, and she can give us more information on that. But with all that in the context of a plan, my intention is to approve this. Ms. Lewis, are there any comments you would like to make relative to the strategy that you're following?
No, I think you had a great explanation. So as I mentioned in some of the notes, we have E-rate happens every 5 years, and we're in the last 2 years of that E-rate cycle. So we're using this opportunity as part of the master plan that was created a number of years ago to continue to upgrade our equipment first at the head end, which is what we're going to do in this purchase, which will happen over the summer, and then at the school sites, the core switch, like the main switch at each site, which will be next summer, and the transceivers and the equipment that goes with that. But as Ross mentioned, we're now in a place where we need to make the new plan going forward for the next 5 years. So that's something that I'm working on along with our staff, not just looking at the network, but also looking at security and equipment, the students, the learning. There's many components to it, and this is one component of it. But as Ross mentioned, this is part of the whole plan. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions for? If not, we are at the end of your first full month of employment in this role. Congratulations on accelerating the process, and with that, I'll move approval of 14E and allow her to get back to solving the district's problems.
Great. We have a first by Trustee Millerick, who would like to second. Trustee Pickus, thank you. All in favor? That's 6 plus our 2 student trustees and none opposed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we will now have report out from the board and superintendent, starting with our student trustees.
Hey everyone. Okay, I'm just going to report on some exciting things that San Marin is working on currently. We just had our senior showcase over the weekend on Sunday. This is a fundraiser that we do to raise money for prom, and it was really successful, and I think everyone had a phenomenal time, so that was great to see. And then this Friday, we are having a wellness resource fair. There are going to be 16 community members who are coming to San Marin to share what wellness services they offer to students. So I think that's going to be a really exciting opportunity for everyone to be able to hear. And then we are also excited to be celebrating Neurodiversity Week starting on March 18th. We have activities planned for every day of that week. It's going to be a collaboration between the Wellness Hub and the leadership class. We're going to kick the week off with presentations for all students by members of the Marin County Youth Commission. One of the students is a San Marin student, and he will be joined by several other students in Marin County. So that's everything we have going on, and we're very excited about all that. So thank you.
Hi everyone. So to start off my report, our Black Student Union was working with leadership, MSA Cinematic Arts, creating spirit days, coordinating speakers, and a movie night. And it was awesome to have BSU host student activities for Black History Month, because it's the first time we've actually had student activities for Black History Month. And we're also hosting a formal attire drive with dresses, suits, shoes, and ties for all our seniors to shop through for free. So we're thankful for all the NHS families and community for donating. So we appreciate the support, and the seniors had lots of fun to have free stuff for prom. Hornet Bowl is coming up on March 22nd. This is a big event where juniors and seniors play flag football, and we'll be renting lights. So be there if you can, everyone. It's a really fun event. And the day after is our spring fling dance, and we're super excited to have another dance. And 2 students will be DJing as their senior project. So we're really excited to be able to incorporate more students in events like this. And MSA Theater is doing a spring show, Once Upon a Mattress. It's opening March 15th and running for 2 weekends. And cast testing is coming up in April. We just figured out a schedule for that week before spring break. We'll be doing a regular Monday 1 through 7th periods, and then full blocks for the rest of the week so juniors can do their cast testing. We're having another Noche de Rumba, which is with live banda for our Hispanic community, and this is going to be towards the end of April. It's similar to the one we did in September for Hispanic Heritage Month. So it was really successful. So we're happy to bring it back for our Hispanic students and others. And then we have a lot of dine and donates. So we're happy to be working with the community to fundraise for NHS. So if you see one, please go and support. Thank you.
No comments.
No comments.
No, nothing.
Well, I know. I was gonna say I kind of actually had to look back because it's been like 3 weeks, and I feel like the whole break took a. I don't know. I went somewhere else and hopefully everybody else enjoyed the break. One thing I wanted to highlight: several of us attended the Legislative Action Day that is done through JLAC. It was held on Valentine's Day. So Trustee Butler, Jacobson, Meta, and myself, and actually the student trustees as well, came to the session. It was great. It's always a good opportunity to speak to our state representatives, and then they also brought in other members from groups such as the State Board of Education, the California Department of Finance group was there. We also talked to the Nutrition Services Division about the Universal Lunch Program. So it was a great informative day, and just loved being able to go and speak at that level. Last Friday, I attended the North Marin Council PTA meeting. I always like to get information from the presidents and hearing exactly what's going on at the schools and the updates. Right now, if you have extra time, parents and caregivers, it's a great opportunity to look and see what roles on the PTA boards there might be available. I know several sites are looking for treasurers, secretaries, or even presidents. And it's a good way to learn more about your school, about funding, and about how you can support the kids at each of our sites. And I wrapped last Friday up with reading for, Read Across America at Olive Elementary. I love doing that. I read several books that my kids loved, so it's always a fun thing to do. That's it.
Good evening. I just want to give kudos to Jesse and Paige for joining us on our JLAC. They gave pretty great feedback to our state legislators, so that was really exciting. Congratulations to Francesca. I know that you were a Marin Teen Girl Conference ambassador, and that was a very well-attended event and was very successful. And I think that's pretty much it. Thanks.
I attended the District Budget Advisory Committee meeting after break, and we discussed things like the general budget and how site budgets are put together and different ways we can look at that moving forward. I also attended the School Fuel Board meeting. We have an Art Smart event at Marin Oaks, March 15th through 17th. They'll be displaying art from all the different sites. It'll be beautiful. Please come by and take a look. Tour of Novato will be May 11th. They're looking for sponsors currently, and if you get that in right away, you can get your name on the shirt. And the book trailer, which we are all very excited to see, is very close to being done. So hopefully at one of those events you'll see that. Thank you.
All right. Just wanted to do a shout out to all of our high school athletic teams. They are super busy. We probably have about 6 games, or they're participating in 8 sports right now, currently. So go. We are super excited to have our first annual music festival this Thursday that will be at the NHS Gordon Gym. We have students from Novato High that are helping watch students who are getting picked up and dropped off. But it really is about creating the pipeline, right, of music. So the 5th graders get to see the 8th graders, and the 8th graders get to see the high schoolers, and they all get to get excited about continuing their music careers. The LCAP process, we had LCAP input meetings for staff and budget information meetings for staff yesterday. We will be doing this all again next Tuesday. And so everybody's invited after school for that. And just a shout out to the Neurodiversity Week. That's also going to be happening across the entire district. And I was able to participate with Magali, Miss Lametta, and with Julie Sinyard for DLAC, and Isabel for DLAC last week. And it was very, very well attended. So congratulations to DLAC.
Okay, we have a presentation now from Olive Elementary School. Please come join us.
where's the present button? Right here.
I know. Good evening, NUSD Board of Trustees and Dr. Smith. My name is Lori Nuno, and I am the principal, proud principal at Olive Elementary School. And tonight we are going to present our STEAM Academy, or our new STEAM program. So since I've been at Olive, one of the things that I had thought about was just how much science education is missing in our elementary schools. We have a science curriculum, however, with all of the reading and writing and the math curriculum, and making sure that our students stay on top and above meeting expectations, sometimes our social studies and our science kind of take a back seat. And so I really wanted to develop a program where we put science, technology, and engineering and art right at the forefront. And last year, Mrs. Fran Rosoff came to me and said, I have an idea. And when Fran comes to me with ideas, it is always something that I know she's always thinking about our students and what they need. And I know that whatever idea she has, she's going to be there to help see it through. So we have a STEAM program where all students TK to 5th grade participate. Our TK to 2nd graders participate. They get it 5 weeks out of the year, and our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders receive it 3 weeks out of the year. And so they get a little bit of art, a little bit of science, and some engineering. And for our littles, it is literacy based, so they do start out with a story, and then they build, or they have this engineering design that's built in with it that you'll see tonight. So this happens, it's about 45 minutes, 3 days a week, and it's during our UA time. And so during this time, all of our classroom teachers are pulling small groups, and then between 5 to 6 students are pulled out of the classroom for STEAM. So the STEAM classes can be anywhere between 12 students to about 25 students, depending on how many classrooms there are. We have 3 fabulous teachers who teach this program, Mrs. Fran Rosoff, Mrs. Robin Nasty, and Mrs. Katie Hamlin. So I'm going to go ahead and bring them up here because they're going to talk just briefly about their what they do in the classroom with the students. I'm going to start with Mrs. Robin Nasty.
Good evening. I'm Robin Nasty. I used to teach at Olive full-time. Not anymore. And I couldn't stay away. I'm the art component of the STEAM. And since the kids do not get an extremely large number of lessons, I've narrowed the focus down to the first set of lessons are on drawing and how to use lines to express themselves, since they are asked to in their lessons all the time, and how to make them more confident in using line to draw. The second set of lessons will be on color theory, how to use color to express themselves. So.
Thank you. And then I'm going to ask Ms. Katie Hamlin to come on up.
Hi, I worked with Fran at the 4th and 5th graders, but I also had the 2nd and 3rd graders. And really what I based the curriculum on was the Arts Attack curriculum that we had at school. And it has, I think, like 6 kind of things they want to cover, like lines, contrast, texture, pattern. And I really developed the lessons based on that. And it was a lot of fun. I tried to incorporate a lot of materials that we might not have been able to do in the classroom. And it was a lot of fun. We had a great time.
Thank you. And Mrs. Fran Rosa?
Sorry.
And then you're going to have to scroll through those videos. Yeah, cool.
Well, it's great to be back. You can take the teacher out of the classroom, but you can't take the classroom out of the teacher. Yeah, really excited to be part of this program, and I want to thank Ms. Nuno and the staff at Olive School for being so supportive. So basically what we do is we take the visual arts standards, and Robin, of course, teaches, and Katie teaches the standards, the visual arts standards, and then we step in with a science concept that connects to the standards. So you can see that one of the things that we did was we were looking at the basic elements of shape, dots, circles, lines, curly lines, angles, and the students then created polygons. Now these are TK and K students. They studied the information, and then we read a book, and we have some students who will just share briefly what we did. And then we created polygons based on the basic shapes that they studied during the art part of the lesson. So that connection, that integration is so incredibly important. So that was one of the things we did. Go to the next slide. Thank you. And another example is taking, for example, the science, the NGSS science concept of force and motion and propulsion. And we've been studying, of course, lines also in art. So one of the art standards was using basic lines to represent accurate animal coverings. And we integrated science in that through a propulsion experiment where the students actually created bats, and we did that with the lines and the shapes. And then we talked about the scientific forces of motion, and particularly propulsion, and they made their bats fly. So it was really cool. Yes. Now, the 4th and 5th graders are doing something that's very close to my heart, and it's something that I did at Hamilton. If you walk on the Hamilton Trail, you'll see all of students' artwork, and this is really an incredible synthesis of science and art. So what the students are doing is they are looking at the wetlands as an environment. And currently we're working with the Marin Audubon Society at the Bahia wetlands. And the students, each student is taking a specific, either an animal or a plant, an indigenous species of that environment, and they are becoming experts in it. And once they become an expert in it, then they take and they go through a very scientific process of creating an accurate scientific drawing of that species. And after they become an expert, and after they've made these incredible drawings, they put themselves in the position of that particular indigenous species, and they write an amazing poem. Now, the drawings are actually going to become, they're going to be going onto a burlap, and they're going to be species flags that will be hanging in different parts of the Olive School area, but also we are going to take them and we are going to turn them into plaques. And working with the Audubon Society, we're going to be using those signs and plaques along the trails. We'll have 2 types of signs, the scientific representation and also what we call cautionary signs, as you can see what we did at the Hamilton Bay Trail. Reminding people that use this beautiful environment that they have to be respectful. And these signs have been very, very successful on the Hamilton Trail, and we hope that they're successful also in the Bahia wetlands. So we do have some students who would like to share with you the kinds of work that they've done. So I'm going to ask the kindergarten students to come up, please. So I'm going to ask Brooklyn. So we have Brooklyn Rosoff, we have Addie Nuno, and we have Mia Steffi. And so this is a book that we read called Creepy Carrots, and we studied lines and all of the different types of shapes, and then the students created polygons based on the story. So I'm going to have the girls come up. So Addie, would you like to come up here first? Right here, please. Thank you. Do you have yours? Okay. Okay, and then Brooklyn. Oh, no, Mia, right here. So you're going to face the audience here, please. And then Brooklyn, right here. Okay. And we have this book called Creepy Carrots, and I'm just going to put it right here. And girls, you want to stand this way over a little bit? Okay, and I have yours right here. And these girls are reading. They're in kindergarten. amazing. Antique, yes. Antique. So, Addie, you're going to begin.
Jasper Rabbit loved carrots. He likes to sneak into the vegetable garden to eat carrots. On the way to school, he grabs a carrot. And on the way back home, he grabs another carrot. Jasper thinks the carrots are watching and following him, so he builds a big fence around Krakenhopper Field. But actually, the carrots tricked Jasper. Now the carrots are safe from Jasper trying to munch on them. And he learned not to be greedy.
So we actually have some of the structures the students built based on polygons and based on angles and straight lines. And you can see that the creepy carrots are stuck inside this incredible fence that they built. Okay, so you want to show the board members your... And fourth and fifth graders, would you like to come up, please? So thank you to Addie and to Brooklyn and to Nia. I'm going to show just the picture. So the second part of the fourth and fifth grade STEAM agenda is to create these scientific drawings. And we have some students here tonight. You want to move over here, Olivia, so you're in the middle, and Matthew. And this is Olivia, Matthew, and Aviva. They're going to share with you their picture. And the pictures, for the most part, except for Aviva's, are on the burlap. And that is a species flag. By the way, they're all natural paints. So the students, with Ann Carla Rivetta, amazing artist and naturalist, she boiled milk, removed the protein from the milk, removed the fat, kept the protein, the casein, and then actually mixed the different colors that were all very, very natural colors from rocks and from ground flowers and leaves to create the paints for this project. So I'm going to start with Olivia. Olivia?
Hi, I'm Olivia, and I studied the fairy shrimp. The fairy shrimp are bringing back the salmon because they're in their diet. Here's my poem. I hear the ducks hunting for me while diving in the water. I taste the algae while I eat it up. I feel like a fairy while swimming in the water. I see the flatworm eggs being laid. I wish my environment was free from buildings.
My animal was a feather duster worm or a polychaete worm. And my poem is, I wriggle and squirm in the mud, a polychaete worm seeking my daily food. I hear the rush of water above and the muffled sounds of creatures I love. I smell the scent of the ocean, salty and bitter. It fills my nose and makes me hungry for some critters. I taste the earth, gritty and brown, and the delicious bites of food that I have found. I feel the coolness of water on my skin and the gentle currents that pull me in. I see the world in shades of gray, but the shapes and movements guide my way. I wish for nothing more than to survive, to thrive in the world where I strive, to eat, to mate, to live my life as a humble polychaete worm without strife.
My name is Aviva, and the animal that I studied was the wood duck. One fact about the wood duck that I found especially interesting was that although they eat aquatic plants, they also eat acorns and some other plants that grow on land and not in the water. And here's my poem. I see my mate craft her nest
of ducks and sticks to lay her eggs. I hear the wind rustling through the tall grass. I smell goldenrod on the breeze, sweet as licorice. I taste delicious duckweed and crunchy acorns. I feel the squishy, squelchy mud under my feet. I hope that my mate's eggs hatch into healthy ducklings.
And one thing I wanted to mention was that these poems will actually be recorded, and they will be put on a QR code. And the QR code will be in the corner of the sign, so you can just hold your phone up and you can actually hear the students speak their poems. And if you walk along the Hamilton Trail, you can also do that from students that have done that in the past. Yeah, it is really cool.
So this program could definitely not be possible without our fabulous staff members, our community of supporters, our family supporters, but also with the funding from Prop 28. And so Prop 28 has been instrumental in us being able to fund for this program. So this has been such a wonderful experience for our students, but also for our families to see kind of how science education can be brought into the schools. Thank you.
Actually, while you're gathering to come up for a photo, I love all of this, the signs in particular. I've been to locations where you can tell kids did artwork, and you make smiles for people as they're enjoying nature and learning so much. So I think that's a wonderful way to continue on the education for everybody. But it's also fortuitous that I've always believed in the importance of science education, and I was on the organizing committee for North Bay Science Discovery Day, which is ironically on Saturday. It's a free event. It's up at Sonoma County Fairgrounds in Santa Rosa, and it's for all ages. It's just a really wonderful event. If people haven't already been before, it's worth the trek to make up there.
Okay, we have another presentation this evening. Our Community Partners School Fuel Board is here, and we have a very talented parent group that raised some money for us, so please come up.
All right. Hey, everybody. As a band, we're a local rock band of dads. That's, we've had to follow some tough acts before, but that was, that's a pretty tough one. Kids are super impressive. Goodness. Anyway, yeah, so our band name's Cougar Bait. This is the third year we've been here. The last 3 years we've played at the Hop Monk, sold out shows all 3 years, and all the ticket proceeds we donate to school fuel. We're a band of all dads. We all have kids in the district. We have 12 kids in the district. And we have some staff here. Our bass player, Mike Malone, is the PE teacher at Loma Verde. And Jeff Fisher, his wife, Mariah, is the drama teacher at San Jose. And we have Brad Smith here, and then Ryan Cloney, who isn't here today, and he's a Marin County Sheriff out there keeping us safe. And so we did our last show, went great, and we have a check that the ticket proceeds and corporate sponsorship. So it's $12,500 this year. That's going to school fuel. And we have our show for this year already booked. I don't remember where the date of it, but November 16th? November 16th-ish, I think. So anyway, you can go to the Hop Monk website and check it out, and tickets are on sale now. And like I said, we sold out the last few years, hopefully this year too, and we'll see you again next time around. Yeah.
I just want to say on behalf of Schoolfield, thank you so much. It's a fun show. It's a great thing you do for the community. It's so awesome that you keep doing it year after year, and we love Mike Malone coming and doing the movement at Tour Novato too. You're all just great gifts to the community, so thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. It looks like our next item is non-agenda public comment, of which I don't see any. So we'll go to our item 12A staff report on workforce housing. Derek Nell, Director of Staff Housing Development, will be joining us for this presentation. And friends.
That's it. No, that's not it. Hang in there. All right, good. Okay, so I'll start out just letting you know that while we're here to provide the board with the staff selection of our consultant to provide an initial education workforce housing feasibility study. And as a way of accomplishing our goal to attract and retain employees who share our vision to engage, inspire, and empower our students, the Novato Unified School District has been working on and taking several steps to pursue education workforce housing over the years. These steps include participating in the California School Board Association's education workforce pilot training sessions. We hired a director of staff housing development. That's me. We have the formation of our first district education workforce housing advisory committee. And one of the things we asked the committee to do was to help us begin the process of selecting a consulting service that would provide an initial feasibility study. The feasibility study will include an assessment of our goals and objectives for housing and our employees. What they'll do is a site analysis on the properties with housing potential. They'll conduct an employee survey and an analysis. They'll work with the city to review the city's housing plans and their approval process and give us an idea of costs and do some budget projections. The district education workforce executive team researched consultants known to have workforce housing experience and working with public agencies like ours. We developed some qualifications and criteria for those consulting firms that would receive our RFP. We sent them out, we received our responses, our team reviewed those responses, and then we conducted interviews of the firms that responded, and we checked their references. And after carefully weighing various factors, including qualifications, their key project experience, and their approach to development in general, and the costs of their study, we are proud to announce that we have selected Brookwood Partners. They demonstrated an extensive level of experience on various projects, including one just down the road at Daly City was recently completed, and a second phase has also been approved for development at a former high school site. So I'm going to introduce shortly here
Brookwood Partners, and they're going to provide us with a brief overview of their services and be available for your questions. And then after tonight's meeting, district staff will come back to you on the meeting of the 19th with finalized contract for your approval. So I would like to introduce, I do want to take one more second to let the board know that James Traber, our land use attorney, the district's land use attorney from F3 Law, is also here, and it was a member of the executive team that helped select the Brookwood Partners for this feasibility study. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to Chris White and Alan Katz of Brookwood Partners, and I'll let you go ahead and present.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that introduction. Thank you for having us. We're thrilled to be here. And we've got about 10 slides. We'd like to introduce you to our firm, about what we do, show you a couple of the projects that we're working on and that we've completed, and then talk about our workflow for approaching a project like this. So Alan and I are the principals of Brookwood Partners. We work exclusively with educational institutions. We're a strategic advisor and help with the development process. We both come from the private industry, so we bring that real-world perspective to our educational clients. And we're working with several in the Bay Area as well as all over the state and Southern California. It's a really common issue that we hear that, since school districts in California are chronically underfunded, they have difficulty attracting and retaining the best quality teachers and staff, particularly because of the high cost of housing. And we all know that just continues to go up, and school districts continue to be underfunded. So it's just a problem that we hear all over school districts in the state. And so we bring our private real estate development expertise to these institutions and help them look at underutilized and surplus land, and how can you better utilize that to help address that problem of attracting and retaining employees. So the two main things that we've done with school districts is help them build workforce housing at subsidized below market rents, and also develop a project that can generate a long-term revenue stream, again, in service of attracting and retaining those employees. So it's a little about Alan and myself. My name's Chris White. We're the two principals of the firm. I come from a kind of a finance investment private industry background. We both worked for a company called Stockbridge, where I worked on the NFL stadium in LA. That's now where the Rams and Chargers play. So pretty complex financial analysis for large development projects. And I'll let Alan tell you about himself.
Yeah, thanks. I've been lucky enough to work in real estate development now in the Bay Area for roughly 25 years. I've had a chance to work for firms you likely have heard of, in addition to Stockbridge Capital. And, my background, unlike Chris's, was originally in architecture and in urban design. So together, between the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain, Chris and I pretty much have kind of all the kind of some of the key skills that are necessary to be able to successfully develop and program and develop workforce housing.
Thanks, Alan. And we're based in Oakland, so we're Bay Area folks. And then we'd be happy to provide this presentation to you all via email so we can look at it in a little bit more detail. I'm not going to read sort of every word on these slides, but on the right are some of the really complex processes in California. The highly complex regulatory system to get projects built that's exactly the type of technical expertise that we bring to our school district clients. This is just an example in Daly City. It is a 22-acre former high school site that had a building that was ready to be torn down. You see it on the left. And we help them envision the redevelopment, the next, what does this neighborhood want to look like? So it includes about 1,200 housing units, including workforce housing for teachers and staff, affordable housing for the general public, and market rate housing, which is what generates the revenue stream, has parks and roads and infrastructure. And This project was just recently approved by the city of Daly City, and so it's something that we're really proud of. But I just want to note that this is a lot more dense of a project than you would expect to see in Novato. This would not be an appropriate project for here, but in Daly City, this is sort of what was called for. Here's a few examples of our workforce housing projects. The top is 122 units for Jefferson Union High School in Daly City. That project has been fully completed. It's constructed, it's fully occupied exclusively by employees of the school district there. And the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit more about that one, but we're also working with Cabrillo Unified and Half Moon Bay to propose 60 units of workforce housing. And then on the bottom are 70 units for Pacifica School District, which were approved last year. This is a little closer look at that project that's been completed, one of the first of its kind in the state. You can see it on the right there, and there's some of us at the ribbon cutting ceremony and folks moving in. The current project status is it leased up right away. It has a wait list. They've been able to retain staff, which they haven't been able to do in a long time, and there are no new job openings at the beginning of a year. So for a school district like Jefferson Union, where they have tremendous turnover of their teachers and staff, this has been really seen as a success. Tony Presta, the superintendent, and Tina Van Raphorst, the deputy superintendent of business services, both really happy with the outcomes. Tina encouraging other school districts around the state to proceed with projects like this. As you can imagine, they've been getting a lot of interest from districts around the state. And all signs point towards the teachers and staff that live there are really happy with it. This is one of the things we like to do when we work with the school district is start with an employee survey to better get to know the community, who possibly might want to live here. It's not only to gauge how many units might be appropriate for the individual school district, but also get to know them in terms of where do they live now? Are they commuting a far distance to get here? Do they have several vehicles? What's their household size, income levels? What type of amenities might benefit folks in that project? And then one of the things that I also like to read is the open-ended questions where you can get folks to leave you some comments. And these are some of the quotes on the right from Half Moon Bay. It's generally folks recognizing that there's an issue with being able to attract and retain employees, and acknowledging that housing is one of the major reasons for it. And so, applauding the school district for taking the approach of considering workforce housing. This is just, on the left are some of the various funding mechanisms that we've explored with other school districts. Jefferson Union was built with a combination of voter-approved GO bonds and COPs, which is just another word for loans that school districts can take out. There's also the sale of surplus or utilized land. You can potentially develop market rate housing that would subsidize the lower rents for the workforce housing, and then various other more complicated funding sources. And then just on the right, the state of California recognizes that there's a housing crisis, and they're actually really doing everything they can to pass legislation to try to remove some of the red tape and incentivize this to move forward, both from market rate housing, general affordable housing, and some of these are unique to school districts to try to encourage school districts who have underutilized or surplus land to take the step of building workforce housing. Getting to the end here, this is a little bit of what the entire process for doing a workforce housing project looked like. So, we were just going to be starting at the very beginning of this process with initial feasibility studies and employee surveys and that sort of work. But to continue the process, you would do, pre-application for the city. These types of projects go to the city for review and approval as opposed to the state architect. And it requires environmental review, traffic studies, design review, and ultimately approval from the city, and then developing construction documents and bidding the construction, starting it. So it is a long process, but you have to start somewhere, right? And again, on the box on the right are some of the regulatory process that are often required for projects like this. This is the workflow that we're proposing over the next couple of months. It would involve looking at due diligence and site review. Again, that's staff survey and looking at the demographics, that information that is available. We will identify opportunities and constraints for various sites that we look at, and start with some preliminary site layouts, and then look at budgeting, schedule considerations, and ultimately, the goal of this is to come back with recommendations and next step for you all to consider. So just again, thank you. We're thrilled to be here, and I think we have time for questions.
Trustee Gasson, then Trustee Millerick.
Thank you for your presentation. Very helpful. As I'm looking through this, I think one of my first questions on the last two slides would be the model, the workflow that you have, and how does it mesh with the this page with that one. So the study schedule workflow is just that blue piece?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Second would be, I love all of the examples of things that you've completed or that are approved. And it looks like some were 2023. So is that the end of your involvement with the process, or is there, I guess I'm looking at what's your bandwidth in terms of how many projects do you take on? You know, are these things that are pretty much done and you're ready to move on, or you know, your staff and that kind of thing?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. I think this really fits right in with our company bandwidth. We have a few additional team members that we've worked with over the years on these projects, so it's not completely limited to the two of us. And just, you know, the projects on this page, the top one is fully finished and operating. We're actively working in Half Moon Bay on the middle one. And the Pacifica is in the financing process now. So they're all at sort of different stages of the development. So just to answer more directly, this working with you all fits really nicely with our overall company bandwidth.
Okay, thank you.
Couple of questions. I'm familiar a little bit with the city of San Francisco State's housing operation and the San Mateo Community College operation. You're clearly in the same geographic region of the state. How do you, I mean, you get from Oakland to the peninsula, you just every day you go across the bridge, I guess?
Well, we don't go there every day, but when we do, yeah. Pop over the bridge.
So are those similar, or were you involved in those in any way at all, or are you just observers?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. The San Mateo Community College District was very, very much, the Jefferson Union project was very much based on that. And so we met with them several times. They finished 3 housing projects about 10 years ago and have been operating it, and it's been really successful. And they brought us in during our planning process for Jefferson Union to tell us some lessons learned and kind of let us look under the hood of how they operate those buildings. And that was particularly helpful for when Alan and I were helping Jefferson Union when the construction project for Jefferson was wrapping up. We were advising on things like you know, the specifics of how are they going to start operating the building when it was completed. And so they're very, very helpful in that.
Has Mr. Nell shared with you the work this district did with Hamilton housing? We ended up with, I think, 100 units of housing available to our employees through a shared appreciation program. Clark Blaisdell led that effort. Have you had any background with that yet or not?
I actually didn't mention that history on our participation on the Air Force Base housing development, where we had a percentage of those units assigned to our workforce.
Yeah.
But all those units have been occupied and have turned over.
It's history now, but it was 2,500 homes that
Total
got rebuilt.
Right. It was So I don't know, I'm sure they have experience with developments of that size, but I didn't talk to
Okay.
let them know about that.
And have you had any chance to talk to the Novato group at all? Have you introduced them to them at all yet? Not yet?
Yes, I've been in regular contact and have had a little bit of input from the Rotary Club members who are in charge of that operation. So we're definitely talking to each other, and I think they're going to continue to participate at their level. They may not attend all of our advisory committee meetings, but I did invite them on the tour down to Jefferson as well.
So in any case, the Rotary Club has a significant influence in terms of public position and public opinion in Marin, in Novato particularly. There's 3 separate clubs and long-serving membership, including large grants to the community college for facilities out there. So it's going to be part of the discussion wherever this goes.
Part of the due diligence that we'll do with Chris on the financial side will be to make him aware of all the local resources and grant funding.
So relative to this, I'm looking at your timeline, and it looks strategic analysis and options. The second line says site considerations and opportunities. It looks like you're end of April sort of saying, okay, we're going to start deciding which site goes first, because we have multiple pieces of property that you're going to have to finish collecting the data on. And I assume, do I understand this right? You're going to kind of spend 2 months kind of making sure you've got all your figures right and then start making proposals? Is that what I understand?
I mean, we come and speak with the board about what we've learned about the properties and some ideas that we have, and so some recommendations and proposals for next steps of how to proceed from there. But certainly nothing will be set in stone.
Yeah, but it's out at that timeline is when we start turning talk into decisions, you think?
Yeah. Just a couple of comments on that.
Yeah.
One is, this is, of course, simplified, and what we're going to find is that it's going to be an iterative process, so that we're going to go somewhat far, and we're going to say, this seems to be, these 2 properties seem to make the most sense. Ask the leadership what they feel about those properties, given the numbers and given number of units one could put on and the amenities that one could put on those sites. And then there'd be feedback, and then we'll find out where to go from there. And we'll probably do that once or twice or maybe even 3 times during before the end of May and kind of the end of this
Novato's
process.
like Pacifica or Pescadero or Half Moon Bay. It's a small town. Everything's pretty close knit. People have definite opinions. And so the conversation about how this plays in the public's eye is going to be critical. If we have to, well, it's not if. This school district depends upon the support of the public ongoing. We have a parcel tax that every 6 years we go out and walk door to door. Everybody at this table and a whole lot of other people go walk door to door and say, do you support schools? And the answer is, well, if the schools support me, I support them. And they have to see that. So if this housing project gets crossways to the community, the damage is consequential to the whole school district. So we are going to, like I'm sure they did at Pacifica, be very careful that we are in step with our community. So there may be more steps in that process than other people might imagine. And we've got a vacant property that's people on one hand like to walk their dog on. On the other hand, other people see that as an opportunity for housing. So I'm looking forward to this conversation, but it's going to be deep into the community. It's not going to be just at this table in this building. It's going to be much deeper than that.
No, I mean, we certainly understand that no housing gets built anywhere without community involvement and real participation and a focus of the community. It's we understand that, and we understand how significant this project is This is not some fly-by-night thing that you just, wouldn't it be great if we did this? It's a real project, so we certainly take it very seriously, and I know Derek and Jim and the superintendent take it very seriously, given the grilling we got before we were brought up here.
Well, you saw this evening some of our teaching faculty who basically moved to Novato, raised their kids in Novato, raised themselves in Novato, raised their kids in Novato, raising their grandkids in Novato. This is a very close-knit community, so I look forward to the conversation. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Lametta?
Hi, thank you so much for being here. I got a chance to talk to President from Culver City, Dr. Kelly Kent, so she recommends you. And Trustee Pickus and I had a chance to talk to President Salima from Jefferson, so I feel good about this. I do have a quick question. At what point do we start having a conversation about financial models of what people pay, or like their return, or how much it's going to cost? Yeah, just good.
Yeah, I think the very first thing we do is look at the sites and just collect due diligence on what could be done. And then a little bit later in this initial scope is when we start looking at numbers. And then it's really a constant conversation throughout the process.
We'll be bringing updates to the board on a regular basis, and we're available whenever you would like. We're going to have the participation of our community committee simultaneously. But essentially, to answer your question, it'll be towards the end of this study before a real picture starts to develop, and then we will bring those options and scenarios to you for some decisions or directions. So it would be the end of that third month or so.
Trustee Butler?
Just to add a little bit to what Ross was talking about and who we are, who Novato is, and I think that's a sort of a plug for Derek, and say that his role is so important because our staff, Josh and Tracy, and they can't take this on. This is a huge undertaking. So to have Derek in this role as a director of workforce housing and development will benefit us in getting that's your go-to person, and Derek understands the community very well. He knows who you need to talk to. So I think that's truly important that you get what Novato is all about. What was my other comment now? Darn it. Shoot. Guess that was it. I can't come up with it. I do like the proposal that you put forth. There's other people out there that do this, and I know we've talked to several of them over the years. We've had several of them come here to this board, so you pretty much do almost all the same things, and maybe it's just a matter of who the relationship that you form with them. Is it a good match with the district? So I am looking forward to moving this forward. I know. I would also suggest as we move through this that maybe we do some board workshops instead of here at the board table during a board meeting. We can spend much more time and dive in, look at sites, each site individually. So something like that. So.
Yeah, after the 19th, we'll bring that schedule, that schedule of updates, and one of them is definitely going to be a board workshop.
Yeah, great.
Any other comments or questions from the board? Okay, I'm just going to recap some of the notes I took so that we're all on the same page. At the end of the 3 months, we're going to get some tangible information about which direction we could possibly go or directions. Please make sure that you guys know the landscape of Novato and that we're in community alignment and that we're all excited about numbers and information and being involved in the process.
Great.
That means we're bringing back next meeting a contract with this particular, is that where we're
Yes, we're going to
right
bring
now?
their contract on for next meeting.
That's correct. Yeah, action next on the 19th. This is our introduction and to let you know who we selected and what their experience is.
Sound good?
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is 12B, staff report from Dr. Tracy Smith, Superintendent, 2023-24 Student Data Local Metrics Update.
right, I asked Dr. Senior to help me tonight. She knows all the same things that I know here. In September, I brought to you a plan about checking in on certain metrics just to kind of gauge our progress, gauge some of the things that we're working on to see if they're actually making a difference for students. And so the metrics are basically suspension, attendance, academic progress, English language learner progress, and the DNF list. I want to shout out to Susie Hirschfield, who works in our office, who has added in these little graphics this time. So she's learning and growing along with the data analysis. So shout out to Susie. And also remembering, I know that you're all very familiar with Alex Perez, who created Data Matters, and he continues to consult with us and help us with data pieces. Okay, so suspension rate, you can see the trends here. At the end of last school year, we were at a 2.3% suspension rate. And by December, it was at 0.7, and it's creeped up to 1.3. Unfortunately, the data continues to show disparities between ethnic groups, and we need to continue to dig into that and think about that for the rest of this year and also into next year, and create goals around that. The attendance teams continue to work hard. Attendance teams cannot party their way out of getting kids to come to school sick, because kids shouldn't come to school sick. And so there was quite a lot of respiratory illness over in December and January. So you can see kind of the trend, it has to fight that a little bit in terms of getting kids to come to school. But overall, we're still trending very nicely in the upward positive direction. Okay, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about, so part of what we use gauge here in terms of Galileo, this is a score that currently we're using to, if a student who is an English learner and they want to become leveled at proficient, then they need to pass the annual, what we call the LPAC exam, English Language Proficiency Acquisition, I don't know. Assessment of California. That's the A and the C. Thank you. And so once they pass that test, then they also need to show a certain level of academic threshold, academic benchmark, and that is assessed in the Galileo. So you'll have students who have already passed this, but they still have to pass this. So we're using this as our gauge to get a sense of how many students will qualify now to become English language proficient. We will have more information around the LPAC and reclassification in a separate report in May for you. Now, looking at Galileo in general, so Julie and I have had lots of conversations as we learn more and more about this test. Galileo was not a test that we were familiar with. And so we're still learning how we use it here in the district and the data. So the students take it, all students take it 3 times a year. And what you see here is the second benchmark test that they took January into February. And what I'm realizing is that it's very difficult to compare the scores each time over time, because they're actually assessing different standards each time. It's not like an overall, they're doing this well in language arts kind of across the board, like they're meeting grade level. It has to do with the standards that we're teaching, which is exactly what this district should be doing because we are about essential standards and proficiency-based education. So the tool and the assessment is not invalid. It's extremely helpful when we're working with teachers and principals, and they can get down into that granular data and look at certain scores to inform their teaching and to catch kids up. But as far as a measure that should be used in these metrics that I'm bringing to you, I am being vulnerable right now and saying maybe this wasn't the right measure to be able to tell you and to be able to say, this is how well our district is doing overall. And so I'm just putting out a word of caution. But what I'd like to do is next time in April, I'm going to bring to you like a report around how we are using Galileo and what it does do for us, so that you understand that piece. It'll help me understand it better. And then finally, the DNF list this is one of those lines that you want to go down. So this is actually a graph that shows some going in the right direction, and we would be able to have this information again, but probably not till late June, till all the end of the semester scores are wrapped up. But go teachers, go kids. So next steps. So these are kind of more your academic, real solid quantitative data. The next data that we're also going to bring, I think I mentioned, is the youth truth data, which really talks more about kind of the sense of belonging and inclusion and the climate and the culture. And so that's a whole nother piece that is also going to be in the LCAP. And that'll be a great analysis to see what growth we've seen in those areas from February of last year to February of this year. So we will continue with our absenteeism work. We'll continue to use our current data trends. We will use all these data metrics and fold them into the LCAP, as well as the site plan. So you'll see these data points again, but now kind of more individually for the different sites. And then it says the Galileo report March 19th, but we're going to bring both the Youth Truth and Galileo on April 2nd. Thank you, Vanna.
Wonderful. Questions or comments from the board? Trustee Gasson?
Thank you so much. And I want to actually acknowledge, I appreciate that you guys are doing the dates on the slides. I know I've requested that, and it's really just helpful. In fact, I marked it up on the prior one because there wasn't a date. And sometimes we get so much information, and I'm like, I stick it in a folder, and I'm like, where did it go? So thank you for that. And also the awareness and the change to, I guess I'm looking at not this presentation, but the attachment that came with it regarding the numbers and putting not just the percentages, but the number of kids. And I just really find that to be significant. And actually, I calculated myself, because the June baseline, we had, if I did my math right, which I forgot at home, but did it right here, it's 7,043 kids. And so I think that's important too to see, compared to the 7,299 for 2024. Anyway, all those little pieces for me when I'm reading a report, it really makes a difference, because the percentages might look a certain way, but it's on a different group of kids. And so I think that makes it hard when you do the analysis from year to year. But it's important because we do want to improve, but having that foundation. One thing that struck me as you were presenting, Dr. Smith, is the Galileo and the lack of, is there something that, I appreciate though you'll bring us a different presentation later, but is there something that you recommend that would be different that we would do?
We are currently looking at different assessments. We're working with teachers to decide what, especially around reading and connecting with the science of reading and kind of our push into that. So we're in conversation. So yes, we're working on that.
Okay. And it was helpful to hear your explanation about the different, and it makes sense now that I think about it and the things that my kids went through. So that was, because when I was looking at this originally, it just skewed it a different way. So thank you for explaining the difference in that as well. So I appreciate it.
Trustee Pickus?
Yeah, thank you for all the visuals, and I appreciate the presentation. Just to clarify, what you were saying about making it hard to compare the data at different points during the year is the same for the English, language arts, and mathematics, correct? It's for both of those? So hypothetically, you could look at each year at the same point in the year and compare them, potentially? If the same standards are being measured at various points during the year?
And look at different cohorts. So if you were looking at kind of how the kiddos are progressing throughout the year, so I took it in 3rd grade and 4th grade, you could see how the cohorts are doing at that time.
Yes, yeah, potentially.
I do, however, think that teachers at times, you want to teach to the pace of the students in your class. And so, you might be adjusting and going quicker or slower depending, right? And you might go through, I mean, I'll just make something up, percentages very quickly one year, but it might be another year it just takes longer. And so it depends on where in that section of when you're teaching that they take the test. And that's the part that's making it hard to compare.
Certainly. Well, and I appreciate the awareness of the cohort, because I do think that sometimes you see one particular year that's very strong and another year that struggles with a different piece. So just the awareness of who the particular students are that year, I think, kind of looking, is it longitudinal, latitudinal, I can't remember, but kind of watching how different groups move through, I think is particularly interesting, specifically with the impact of COVID and where we're sort of seeing those gaps as our students move through, you know, which pieces are they struggling with more at certain points because of where they were during COVID. So I appreciate the awareness.
Trustee Butler?
When you come back, I would love to have a couple teachers here to explain what they do throughout the year and how they assess the students and how they take that information, that data, and put it into their instruction. That would be great.
Okay, thank you very much. Board, I'd like to ask for your direction on something. We had a public commenter arrive right after that section closed. Would we be willing to let one commenter come now? Yes, okay, please, our public comment is going to happen now. We have Maria Melendez. That was terrible. I'm really sorry. And you can come to the center microphone. Uh-huh. No, that's fine. You'll have 2 minutes, and I will let you know that the board, 3 minutes, the board is not able to respond back on non-agenda items. So we're happy to hear your comment, though. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Maria Melendez, and I've been living here in this community in Novato. I'm almost 22 years here, living with you guys. And my kids attend to Novato High School right now. I have twins, and one of them has been jumped by 3 kids. And this is not the first time they're being suffering by bullying. And what I notice is bullying has a pattern in all schools, all ages. Sadly, for 2 years, I had to remove my kids from the public school, and I'm homeschooling them. Now, finally, last year, they returned to school in person. And now this thing happened again. The bullying started again. And as a parent with my kids, and I know bullying is a serious issue that we have to address right away. Enough is enough. We can continue having all these issues with kids who don't know how to speak up for themselves, and they decided to take their own lives. Please, we need to do something to help them, to make them feel safe in their school while they're in school. Because otherwise, we're going to continue having more kids taking their own lives, and we need to do something. Please, I need your help, and I'm here. If you guys need to build any program, I'll be here, advocate for all these kids, not only for my kid, because what I notice is like a lot of kids need mental health. They need counseling, they need something. But please, help me in this situation, because I don't want my kids to die. You know, there are miracle babies, like all of these kids, but I'm really worried. I'm really worried because my son ended in the emergency room with head concussion, and he's still struggling with headaches. And even though he's trying to show himself like, I'm strong, but he's not strong. And as a parent, you guys know your own kids. And we need to continue, like encouraging them to make them feel like confident and safe in any environment and any place that they be, with home and at home with parents or in school or any other place. Thank you guys for listening to me.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to item 13A. This will be presented by Francesca Whitcomb, Executive Director of Human Services. This is the approval of Resolution Number 16, 2023-2024, reviewing and approving of preliminary layoff notices for classified staff.
Good evening, trustees and Dr. Smith. I am presenting to you, this first item is Resolution 16, 22, 23, 24. It is a resolution to decrease the number of classified employees effective for next school year. And the positions on this resolution, all but the administrative assistant 2 position are what are considered specially funded positions. So a specially funded position actually doesn't require the newer March 15th layoff timeline and request for hearing, right to a hearing, and that process under Assembly Bill 438. But as a district leadership, we felt it was important to share with our classified union leadership as well as employees as soon as possible if we were going to be anticipating any reductions. And so these reductions have been shared with CSEA. We are negotiating the impact of these layoffs as we are supposed to with the classified bargaining unit. And we have had conversations with impacted staff from the site level by principals, but there will also be personal conversations with the employees, with myself and members from CSEA in partnership together. The other reason for bringing this forward in the timing that we are is so that through this process, we know we're still planning and finalizing our budget and staffing needs for next school year. And we do anticipate that there will be some positions in some of these types of realms that will potentially be restored. And we'll also potentially hopefully have some retirements that will create vacancies. So all of these pieces will hopefully enable many of the employees impacted by these reductions to have things to displace to or move into for next school year. So we're trying to stay hopeful that in the end, the final impact will not be as drastic. So hopefully that gives you a little information.
Questions, comments from the board? Do we have a motion to approve? Trustee Millerick moves to approve.
Move to approve, and this is a CSEA work group, correct? Right? Classified work group,
Correct.
correctly stated, not CSEA, thank you.
Give us-
And I see the items are itemized in the whereas, the actual head counts. Thank you. I so move.
Do we have a second? Trustee Butler. This is a roll call vote. Trustee Butler.
Aye.
Trustee Gasson.
Aye.
Trustee Jacobson, aye. Trustee Lametta.
Aye.
Trustee Mack is absent. Trustee Millerick.
Aye.
Trustee Pickus.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is also with Francesca Whitcomb. This is 13B. Discussion action approval of resolution number 17, 2023-2024, reviewing and approving the preliminary layoff notice for certificated staff.
All right, so on this item, resolution number 17, 22, 23, 2024, this is approving preliminary layoff notices for certificated staff based on positions to be eliminated effective next school year. And I will just say that there is a list of positions that are slated for elimination, or positions, an FTE. For the most part, it is our anticipation that there are not anticipated to be any permanent or probationary staff effectively laid off as a result of this resolution. There are going to be notices of reassignment to classroom teaching positions for next year. That will be a result of the elimination of the teachers on special assignment position in particular. And this is a very, I don't want to say typical, but it is a standard procedure, if you will. The law requires us to provide a notice prior to March 15th to our certificated staff of any reductions or elimination to their positions. And it is preliminary, and then any final notification has to be provided to them by May 15th.
We have one public comment for this item. Would we like to have any questions or comments from the board? Or sounds like no, we'll have our public commenter then. Vicky Breen. Thank you.
I just want to say I really don't like doing this. I only do it out of need. I'm very nervous. Hi, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Smith. I'm not here to be combative, but I am passionate about teaching in Novato. And my concerns with the proposed budget cuts and are growing since I was informed of the list, and to say they are absolutely devastating is an understatement. I'm not naive to budget cuts and that they have to happen. I just ask that we take those cuts as far away from the children as possible. This proposal cuts every single support for elementary students. No extra help for English learners, no extra help for kids that struggle with reading, no extra help for kids that struggle in math. Also, they will cut instructional aids in primary grades. Anyone that has ever stepped foot in a kindergarten class or a first grade classroom for more than 15 minutes can tell you that instructional aids are a necessity. I know teachers are sometimes considered miracle workers, but we can't do what we want to do with these cuts. The kids after COVID are very different. And the struggles that we have are very real. And we have to find a different way to cut. Cutting at this level, starting at kindergarten, we are going to see what happens after that. We're going to see that kids are going to tank on scores. We're going to have more outbursts. And in the classroom, I'm getting off topic, but anyway, I challenge this Board of Trustees to ask the hard questions. How can we make cuts further away from our dear students? As it stands, the impact of these cuts will impact almost every educational support system a young learner needs. So I challenge you to ask the district to think outside the box. Don't do just the easiest thing to cut our teachers, because we're all about teachers. That's what we do. We're educating kids. Try to find something else. Can we look at different things like consultants? We spend a lot of money on consultants. We're highly qualified to teach. You hired us for those reasons. We know how to teach. So please, please, I know my time's out because I'm a nervous wreck, but can we look at different things to cut? Look at reevaluation and really think about Galileo. Please talk to your teachers, because I would love to talk to you about that. But also, we have to cut farther away from our kids. Right now, we're right next to the kids. Their teacher, their assistants, and their interventions. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki.
I'd like to go ahead and address that, the comments. Thank you. So I think it's important to remember that what we're presenting tonight is a first step. And some of these are necessary steps in order to rebuild from what is the most necessary and what is closest to the students. What has not been completely developed yet is which pieces of this puzzle that goes into serving students remains. So there are many supports that will be kind of coming back, and you'll hear this in the job descriptions. So my next piece of work is to communicate that out so that it's very clear, so that people aren't considering this as like a complete demolition of everything that we do for kids. So that will be our next step. So this is just the first step.
Trustee Butler?
That's exactly what I was gonna, sitting here, communication is always the key thing. So I think even maybe a message tomorrow. I hate to put that on you, but that would be my suggestion. The board approved this, but this is what this means. It's a little bit different than what we've had in the past, where it's like we're just slashing positions like we did in 2022. We had a huge amount of cuts, and those people didn't have, wasn't we repositioning. It was those people were gone. And we may have had some people come back, but a lot of people did lose their position, and that's not necessarily always the case that we're looking at right now. So we're hoping to reposition some of these. So I would suggest that. Thank you.
Trustee Millerick?
I think it's the same message. What happens is when you hand the layoff notices to a group of people, they all put their application in at some neighboring school district, and the neighboring school district goes over and picks what they think are the bright, shiny stars within the first week. So this is an invitation to disrupt our, we have to do the best we can to move quickly through this process. We have to start. I got that. I'm ready to vote yes. But we have to move quickly to let the people who choose to be teachers in Novato understand they're part of Novato and they belong in this community. Thank you.
Trustee Pickus?
Just to sort of follow up on the comment and the general conversation, I think, as we look at data and metrics, and I appreciate the comment or the invitation for conversation around the metrics that we're looking at. Ultimately, we want to see those metrics shift for the positive, and all of those people are essential. And I know that in the many conversations we've had that you see those as essential. And so as we move through this next couple months, just really making sure that we are kind of going back and putting those supports in for our students and for our staff, because that is really what's going to move that needle, which I know that you know, but I just want to reiterate that that's something we're looking for.
Would anyone like to move this item forward? Trustee Millerick, and a second. Trustee Pickus. This is a roll call vote. Trustee Butler?
Aye.
Trustee Gasson?
Aye.
Trustee Jacobson, aye. Trustee Lametta?
Aye.
Trustee Mack is absent. Trustee Millerick?
Aye.
Trustee Pickus?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is also with Francesca Whitcomb, 13C, discussion action approval of new certificated job descriptions, elementary school counselor, elementary teacher on special assignment, secondary teacher on special assignment.
All right, thank you. So for this item, this is part of that next step that Dr. Smith spoke to. While we do have to make certain eliminations, we are planning to bring certain things back in a slightly different fashion. And so these job descriptions will, in the case of the teachers on special assignment, our site administrators working in tandem with Dr. Smith and Dr. Sinyard have developed, I would describe as more robust job descriptions for these teachers on special assignment positions, so they incorporate the needs and the duties specifically to elementary or to middle and high school, because we know they do have very different needs. And this would, the plan in Mr. Braff's proposed budget that he's been working on does include restoring a certain level of FTE of teachers on special assignment. And then the new elementary school counselor position, as it describes in the cover, is a way to add that missing piece, if you will, along with the school social worker position that you recently approved a job description for, and for whom we have successfully offered one position already for next year, looking to hire another one. But the elementary school counselor will add that other missing piece, puzzle piece, if you will, to help support our students' mental health needs, social emotional needs, and provide something at the elementary school level that has been missing until now. So,
questions or comments from the board? Would someone like to make a motion to approve this item? Trustee Gasson? And a second from, I think now that we've started, we have to finish this part, and then we can still go to comment if we have a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Trustee Butler. And now comment.
Great. Just to sort of follow up on the last conversation that we had, I think it would be helpful as we have a job description now and as we start to look forward next year, I'd be really interested to hear how we are using this position to move in and provide some of those supports that were in the old positions. You know, once things are gone, sometimes we tend to forget that they existed and we're looking for new things, and I really want to make sure that we go back and fill in those old holes so that we are providing those supports for students and teachers. So perhaps a follow-up piece at some point to kind of talk about what that's looking like in our classrooms.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we'll take a vote. All those in favor? That's 6 plus a student trustee and none opposed.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Our last item this evening is from Joshua Braff, Chief Executive Officer, and John Delana, Project Executive, Greystone West Company. Discussion action, approval of schematic design, project schedule, project cost estimate for electrical switchgear project at Novato High School.
All right, thank you. So tonight we're looking for budget approval and permission to bid for the switchgear project at Novato High School. We'll follow a similar format as before, where we go over the project information. We'll talk about the site location and the scope. We'll have a project estimate for you, as well as a schedule, and then open it up for any questions. So this project involves upgrading the main switchgear at the campus. This is to accommodate the existing and future needs for the electrical loads. New underground power from the PG&E pole outside of the campus on Arthur Street to the new switchgear. We'll be installing a new pad-mounted transformer, and then removing the existing transformer and the primary and secondary conduits for those. So I know this is a little bit hard to see, but the picture on the left is the path from the PG&E pole on Arthur Street all the way to a new transformer. And you'll see on the right, it picks up the transformer on the left-hand side. So that's a transformer on a concrete pad, and then it'll be trenched over to a new switchgear that's fed into the existing switchgear. If you go to the photo on the right, go to the right side. Yeah, so the new one is the shaded box furthest up. Correct, and then it'll feed into the old transformer as a pull box. So that's the transformer there. Yep, and then it feeds into I said transformer. Yeah, but it feeds into the new the existing switchgear as a pull box. And this has all been approved by PG&E at this point, so it's taken us some time. We did get approval in January, and we're now proceeding with that. Correct, yeah. And we're upgrading from, I think it's I think it's a 2,000 amp now, where it was a 1,000 amp service prior. So construction budget, you can see that we have $618,000 with a design contingency allowance in there, as well as a construction contingency. There's architect fees, the rest of the soft costs with PG&E, CM, inspection fees. We'll do a CEQA, as we do with all exterior projects, and then legal fees, as well as some miscellaneous expenses. And that gets us to $1 million. So the schedule for this, it's a little bit hard to read because it's so small up there.
It's even small close.
So essentially with approval, we would start advertising on the 6th, which would be tomorrow. The second advertisement would be a week from that. We'd have a job walk. Contractor RFIs would be due March 21st. Bids would be due the end of the month. Come back to you at the early April board meeting for approval. That would start the submittal process. The switchgear lead time is about 52 weeks right now. So we're looking at a 2025 summer project. Any questions?
Trustee Millerick and then Trustee Gasson.
What, 14 kilovolts, KV? Do you know what the amp voltage
I think it's
is?
12.
Okay.
I'd have to,
Okay,
I'd
but
have
it's
to
in
double check
range,
that, though.
okay,
Yeah.
Okay, it's not 100 and something, 12. Okay, and you said 200 amp, 2,000 amps.
2,000 amp.
Versus 100 before.
1,000 before.
Before the issue was, we added the Performing Arts Center, we added the Science Building, we added air conditioning, and we knew 5 years ago that we were in trouble on the overall capacity for that site. Do you know of any other sites where we're gonna face a similar problem in Novato, since you probably understand it better than anybody in the room?
I'm not aware of any other sites where we're as close as we are at Novato. I do know that we still have Sinaloa left to do for the HVAC, because that's coming due next, and so we'll have to check that. And then I do know that there is some work at San Marin in terms of rebalancing that switchgear. There are some issues with the power loads there, but I don't believe that, or I know that one does not need to be upgraded at this
Yeah, that
point.
switch got replaced 20 years ago, I think. PG&E picked up the cost for that one.
Yep.
Okay. So the other question I have is, in general, we've said we want, when a project comes for approval, any one of your projects, they go to the department head, either maintenance or the principal or IT, so that all the acceptance documents get turned over. Has that practice, is that happening now, do you know? Are you turning, since the bond department sort of melted? Maybe Josh can answer that better
Yeah,
than you.
so what Trustee Miller is referring to is the idea that, like, whoever's going to be the end users having some sort of sign off to say, yes, this was done as I intended it to. As of now, we've implemented that. We just haven't had the opportunity yet because there hasn't been any projects of sort of an end user scope to actually go out and try it. But what we've discussed within our bond meeting is basically exactly that, is saying, okay, as we do our walkthroughs for that checklist, also adding checklist of whoever the end user is.
Okay, so thank you very much for responsiveness to the issue. So at some point, there's a whole bunch of data circuits that IT should have gotten, so at some point I'll have a conversation with you to make sure they got all the testing for the data circuits that got put in later.
Oh, so this was a catch-22, I didn't realize.
Yeah, it was,
that.
no, it was. That's why I snuck it in at the end. Thank you very much, thank you, Madam President.
I got thrown off by this lead time on the equipment. I thought it was just a mistake in the dates or something, so that's kind of
Unfortunately, it's not. No, it's one of those things that have kind of exploded in lead times, and we've seen it even go up to like 60 weeks.
Yeah.
So, but I will say we've jumped on the HVAC units for the 4 sites this year, and we're starting to get them ahead of schedule. So, fingers crossed,
Although
we
you
get this
still
ahead of
want
schedule.
to, which is leading my next question, because I actually thought it was a blank page in between on my presentation. The map, I have no idea what the, so it's not something you could do that wasn't during, it has to be when school's not
Correct.
in
'Cause
session
the-
anyway.
We'll have to shut down the electricity to the entire site to do the switch over.
Right, so even, I mean, we couldn't get it before summer anyway. So
Yeah,
we'd
I
have to
wouldn't
wait
feel
till-
comfortable like doing it over a winter break or
Right,
something like that.
right. So I guess my question, again, I don't really know the map, and I'm not as educated about all this technical stuff as Trustee Miller, but it seems to me that the existing pole, where it is, or they're replacing that, and then there has to be a lot of trenching work, correct?
That's correct.
And having gone through that at my own, I know you have to go down significant distance for that. Includes all the, whatever the repaving, rework, and all of that needs to go into it as well.
All the
correct?
patchwork, all the utility location,
Okay.
that's all
So,
included.
because
in
it's
this.
gonna be kind of all ripped up for a little while.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I was I was just
Yeah.
thinking, it's kind of like tricky when you have all that opened up and everything too. So, thank you. I'm good to go on this. Glad it's getting done.
Our student trustee?
Yeah, I couldn't really understand the map, but my question was when will the construction take place when students are in session, and will it affect how they get transported to school? Because when I had started my senior year, it was a problem for students to get to school, but it got resolved quickly. So I was just asking how will it affect students that are in session?
Yeah, so first I apologize for the map. I took that from the drawings and it's faint. I couldn't get it any darker. So that's the first thing. But as far as, no, this work will be done over summer. And so the intent is to have it, we'll need the power up before school starts. They'll do it over summer and it shouldn't affect the students at all.
Right. Other comments, questions, or move for approval?
I'll move to approve. Thank you very much
Thank you,
for
Trustee
answering my
Miller.
questions.
Welcome.
Do we have a second by Trustee Pickus? Thank you. All in favor? 6 plus a student trustee, none opposed. Thank you. That is our last item this evening. Our next meeting is March 19th.
Did you have a consent item open?
No.
Okay.
We had one that we approved right after and one that was pulled from the agenda
Oh,
entirely.
okay. I thought the
Thank you.
second one was pulled for discussion. Thank
We'll
you.
see it in the future, I'm sure. Good night.
Good. $1 million here and there, it adds up.